They said he would never matter, never make it out of the dirt, never rise beyond the shadows of his broken neighborhood. But what they didn't know was that inside a rusted tin roof home in the slums of Bangladesh, a genius was quietly being born. This is the story of Rayan, a boy with dust-covered feet, hollow pockets, and dreams as big as galaxies. A kid who spoke less and thought more, who spent his days helping his mother wash dishes at a tea stall, and his nights building telescopes out of bottle lenses and cardboard tubes because he believed the stars were speaking to him. He had no school uniform, no textbooks, no electricity, yet he had something most kids didn't: relentless focus, fierce hunger, and a stubborn refusal to let his poverty define him. People mocked him. Neighbors laughed at his mad science, and even teachers told him to be realistic, but Rayan never answered back. He just kept building, kept thinking, kept drawing blueprints in the dirt with a stick while other kids played cricket. Every day he would borrow an old broken calculator from a cousin and solve equations without knowing what grade they belonged to. And though he had never sat in a real science class, he taught himself electricity by rewiring a broken fan and learned gravity by dropping pebbles off rooftops, timing them with his heartbeat. His small home had a leaking roof and crumbling walls, but it had a brain inside that could redesign the future. When he turned 13, he walked 6 kilometers, barefoot, to enter a district-level science contest with a self-made solar-powered water purifier made from kitchen scraps and mirrors from broken makeup kits. People laughed at first, but when it worked, the judges stared in disbelief, and by the time the results were announced, Rayan was standing in front of cameras with tears in his eyes and a trophy in his hands, not because he won, but because for the first time in his life, someone outside his mother believed in him. That victory gave him a scholarship to a school he could never afford, a place where kids wore ironed shirts and had iPads, where teachers had master's degrees, and the labs smelled of newness. And though he entered that world silently, by 16 he was presenting his projects to UN delegates via Zoom from a corner of an internet cafe. His mother cried when he left for the airport, whispering. Head down and heart racing, he made it his own with sheer effort. He topped his class within 6 months, built a wind-powered mobile charger for fishermen, and turned scrap drones into working aerial maps for farmers, all while still eating 1 meal a day and sending half his scholarship money back home. And by 17, he received a call from an international science foundation offering him a full ride to study aerospace engineering in Germany. He never forgot who he was or where he came from. He still wore the same shoes his mother bought with borrowed money, still carried a photo of his village next to the lab computer, and still built his biggest ideas for the poor, not the powerful. One winter evening, during an international conference, he was asked how a kid from the slums got this far, and he replied, "And every time a kid writes to him saying, 'No, you will be better,' this story isn't about talent. I wasn't chasing success, I was running from failure. Don't just reach the stars, talk to them." Landing in Europe was terrifying, with new languages, cold winds, and silence into legacy, all because he chose to believe that even from the lowest place on earth, a line that was quoted in newspapers across Europe the next day. And then came the moment he dreamed of since he was 8, his final project, and the unstoppable force of one human being who refused to give up even when everything told him to quit. So the next time you think your circumstances are too small, a low-cost nano-satellite designed for agricultural data collection, and people who couldn't say his name right, but Rayan adapted like water. He spent nights in the lab, learned German in 3 months. And by the time his first year ended, he had already designed a prototype of a high-efficiency rocket fuel chamber that caught the attention of aerospace giants. The entire team celebrated, but Rayan stepped outside the control room, looked up at the sky, and quietly cried, because he knew that above him, floating in the vast silence of space, soon he was building with teams at ESA, And even though he walked among the most brilliant minds of his generation, and I Just Didn't Stop was launched into orbit aboard a joint space mission, and when it successfully connected, was a piece of himself, a signal from a boy who once drew stars in the sand with his fingers. Today, Rayan runs a global Tech for Good initiative that brings clean energy, education, and internet to slums like the one he came from. I want to be like you, he replies, because I'll make sure your road is smoother than mine ever was. Because talent was never the problem. It is about belief resilience. Or your dreams too big. Remember Rayan, the barefoot boy who turned garbage into gadgets, pain into purpose? You can reach the stars if you never stop climbing. Thanks for watching.